Hey, welcome back to Common Mansplaining, where there's no elites allowed and no opinion is too common. I'm Eddie, and that's Christian, and today we're going to go over the outrageous commutation of sentences from Biden. I think this puts him at the number one sentence commuter of all time, which is pretty impressive in the presidency. I mean, I know that it's there for a reason. I know that the president has this power, but I have to say, like, the day. So the day after I saw this, I put one of those memes out on Facebook. I'm like, you get a sentence commutation, and you get a sentence commutation. Everybody gets a sentence commutation. It's like,
this one today, or recent, the 37 federal death row inmates. He did not do many mass shooters or any sort of racist,
right,
hate speech thing, which ended up being 3 people that didn't get commuted, but was a reaction to Trump. Now, the wheels of doing any federal prosecutions grind really, really slow. Chance of maybe 1, maybe 2 of these being executed in the next 4 years is really more likely than anything.
right.
But it was Trump said he was going to push forward with these and wouldn't have any problems with them, and that was really the impetus. He said he had to do this before Trump came into office. Now, do you remember? Well, I mean, it was before I was born, but I don't know if you've read about. There was a lot of concern about when John F. Kennedy became president of the church. Have you heard about that? Or president of the church became president of the United States.
Yes.
Right. And there was a lot of concern about his Catholic. We never had a Catholic president before.
Right. Very
Roman Catholic. Always been Protestant. And what was the crack that people would say is that the Pope would have undue influence, that the Vatican would be running the country, kind of stuff. And he had to clearly kind of separate that and say, no, that's all a bunch of
unreasonable.
Yeah.
Right.
So Biden is, I believe, the second Roman Catholic.
Boy, if you can call him that.
He likes to tell himself Roman Catholic, and his last trip as president will be to Italy to meet with the Pope. And the Pope had very recently called for him to commute all these sentences, because the Pope, the Catholic Church, has a stated stance against the death penalty, even in due process.
Sure.
And so it sort of looks like a spite to Trump, but also kind of what people fear, that a president being swayed unduly by the Pope. What is your take?
Yeah. I mean, so, okay, first of all, my first reaction is the pro-life Catholic stance is a all-encompassing stance that primarily deals with being against abortions
and suicides
and suicide.
The Christian idea, all life, whether you're a homeless person or a CEO,
whether you're comatose or if you're a human, you're sacred, right? Absolutely. And I mean, it on the one side, I think it's kind of hypocritical for him to like be, to waive all of these death row sentences and then not uphold the pro-life Catholic stance everywhere else.
Whereas politically advantageous, he doesn't uphold it.
Right. Wherever, basically, this is the only pro-life position that I believe is left-leaning, right? Like the others are obviously more socially right-leaning. And so it's like, yeah, no problem. I'll be a Catholic when it suits me, which is probably that's what everybody does, I guess, to be fair. But it's a little bit frustrating, just because it's like it almost gives Catholics a bad name, in addition to a bunch of other problems that come with it. But yeah, then the other side to this is I was under the impression that pardons were for one of essentially two broad uses. One is if there was some kind of like grave injustice or two, if there was some kind of like new alliance that was necessary for the necessity of the political terrain, right? Like if there was some kind of situation where like maybe these people were prosecuted unfairly, or they were like put in a position where, like Hunter, as far fetched as it was, I could almost see like this, like, okay, maybe he was targeted because I'm Joe Biden and he's my son. Maybe. I don't buy it, but I could at least see the angle, right? But like
Yeah.
the rest of these are just random people to pardon for no reason, and some of these
Well,
pardons are taking like the communities are like really upset about it
yeah.
because
Yeah.
they spent out. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean they just spent outrageous resources getting a lot of these people to heal, and now it's like whatever.
Well, usually presidential pardons have usually come with a lot of back work, like research, team of like building a case. And a lot of times it's somebody like who's out of prison and has
Right.
rebuilt their life and done a lot of good. And now we're going to pardon them so they don't have this record of being a felon on the, to sort of exonerate that they've, changed their life around and been rehabilitated, right?
Or
Things like that. Or yeah, grave injustices, things like that.
right.
And and there's usually a ton of paperwork, a ton of research on each one, right? Of why this is justified, what this person has done. This person, we don't even know if these 37 people were asking for it or anything like that, or that it just seemed like, hey, you've been convicted in a jury of your peers and lawful due process and found of a crime that's deemed worthy of the death penalty. I'm commuting that. Now, the only other instance I can think of where this happened was in California. There was a Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court who just decided of himself that he didn't want to, that the death penalty was unconstitutional and commuted every sentence of everybody that was on death row at that time. That's why Charles Manson lived for so long. And Sirhan, and all these, anyway,
That's insane.
people that should have been killed. And the next election, he was recalled, because you can recall Supreme Court justices in California. Back when California was Reagan, Pete Wilson, more of a right-leaning state. He was recalled, put in the next, and they reinstated the death penalty, but all those commutations stand. Like you can't go back and put them in. It's just, all right, now everybody starting now gets the death penalty, goes forward. And that's the kind of thing too. It's like Trump, nobody can go back and sort of unscrew the light bulb,
right?
To use that analogy.
Yeah, that's good.
And sorry, but and so it does seem, that wasn't. This is a very broad power, one that should have a lot of research, had a lot of justification for each individual use. That's due process. We don't want to blanket, hey, this, regardless of their circumstance. This is why I oppose reparations broadly, like, oh, a whole class of people get reparations and a whole class of people are guilty of things. No, each individual case you need to show evidence why, and usually that the state violated their rights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's usually commutations. The state, somehow their prosecution or something was corrupt or not fair enough.
Or too long. Or something like that. Like I could see, for example, like some of the people in the January 6th thing, okay, like if you're and don't get me wrong, like if you went and you assaulted a cop, okay, whatever. You should be put away for 5 years or whatever. But if your crime was walking casually through the corridors of the White House as you were escorted by other police officers, it's like, come on, guys, let them go, whatever. Or if it was like a highly politicized event, like for example, the George Floyd case, right? Okay, highly politicized, a lot of like shaky facts that are just now coming out that kind of were like kept hidden for all this time from the public. okay, maybe you make some modifications there.
Yeah,
Or like,
it was a court of public opinion. Yeah,
right, like
absolutely.
the Julian Assange or Edward Snowden or something like that, where there's like a situation where, okay, maybe they technically broke some laws, but they did it for the greater good. Something like that, where you
There'd be a lot of
detailed.
people making very detailed arguments, like usually to the
Right,
administration for why that should be done, rather than blanket. And
right.
blanket amnesties, blanket commutations, blanket reparations, blanket is we have due process. Each individual matters. They should be worthy and committed to their crimes, and commuted on an individual basis in that way. So that's my big take on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, collective amnesty is just as bad as collective punishment. And I mean,
Mhm.
what do you guys think at home? I mean, if you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear about it. But I just,
We can't trust the Democrat Party, right? The he for all the things that he said he wouldn't do this, uh, when it came
yeah,
down to it.
that's the other thing too. Like he said, this whole time he's like, no, we're gonna uphold the rule of law and da da da. Da. And then now it's like he's almost like gone the other way on like as far as he can on
Burn
purpose.
it
Almost
down, burn it down.
like there's a. It's funny because Trump is the one that they originally said was going to be the whiny baby who was like, well, I don't want my toys, taken away from me. And it looks like Biden is literally like knocking the sandcastles over. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Of
Like I
course,
thought he was the adult.
I think history right now, the mainstream press is carrying so much water for him in the Democrat Party because they are so anti-Trump that they can't say anything to further weaken his opposition.
Yeah.
But history, when we get out of this little woke epoch and Trump is no longer a cloud, will be unkind to Biden. Unkind to Biden, indeed, as they should.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
At
But
least
anyway,
that's what the common men think.
that's what the common man thinks. If you guys have an opposing view, I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and help out your channel because we could definitely use all the help we can get. And we'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.